Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, sponsored by Chalkboard, where you simply choose more or less on your favorite player stats to win up to 5,000 times your money. I am Jim Coventry. Today's show, I will give my top reactions to the Week 7 action. Look, before we begin, just got done watching these late afternoon games. The Broncos literally scored 33 points in the fourth quarter to win this game against the Giants. We will talk about that game later. I have that in a certain order, but the craziness we just saw on that field, one of the most insane games. And we see insane games every single week. We're also going to talk about the Eagles today. They got that passing game back on track. We're going to talk about the Colts, the juggernaut that's looking unstoppable on offense. We're also going to talk a little Josh Jacobs today, shaking off that calf injury and coming through for his fantasy investors when they needed him most. And you know what? Even though there's a lot of great action today, we are still going back to that Thursday night Joe Flacco game. So it's going to be a wild ride on this show. Buckland will get you up till kickoff of the Sunday nighter. But all that said, instant reaction number one. The Eagles passing attack comes alive. Eagles 28, Vikings 22. This was a fun game. Now, like me, for a Saquon Barkley investor, maybe not such a great game. Barkley 18 for 44 on the ground. We've seen defenses selling out to stop that run. That offensive line in Philly is not the line it was. A lot of the names are the same. They're not getting the push. Barkley's not getting to the second level. A lot's going on here. A lot is going on here. But Saquon, not a good fantasy day. And last week it was close. It was another bad game. But you know what? The passing game got rolling. Before I get into that, Jalen Hurts only rushed negative 10 yards. I got to change something in my article. I thought it was 10 yards. 4 carries, negative 10 yards. Crazy. You think he'd be running for yards, but he comes up with one of the best passing performances we've seen in a while. I know he's had some good ones past years. He goes 19 to 23, super efficient. 326, 3 touchdowns. May have been able to have a fourth, but obviously wisely A.J. Brown got down to the ground so they could run the clock out at the end of that game. That's a smart move. That's the way we do it. So A.J. Brown comes through. So again, Hurts all passing, no rushing. Big game. Great to see. We were worried. Minnesota sends all those crazy looks, and that's something that is a real problem for Jalen Hurts. They play a lot of zone on the back of that, and that's often a problem for Hurts as well. It wasn't this week. Jalen Hurts was able to unlock Devontae Smith. This is the most yards, obviously, 183, 9 catches, 1 touchdown. Most yardage Devontae Smith has had in a game in his career, 11 targets. That they found the match. They found the matchup they liked. Smith had a great long touchdown where he was able to kick through a tackle a little bit, fight his way into the end zone, a 79-yard catch. Thing of beauty. Even without that, he's over a hundo. So great game for Devontae Smith. And this is the thing. People ask me start sitting these guys, and I tell them, I go, I get it. They've had some horrible games. But what they can do is why you can't sit them. I say you frame them both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, frame them as wide receiver 3s. Diminished expectation. I know you don't write your lineup down saying WR1, WR2, but if you go in with the expectation, I'm hoping to get 4 for 40 out of them. I'm hoping to get 4 for 60 out of them. Maybe a little better. But then when you get the games like this, you know why you did it. A.J. Brown, only 6 targets, 4 for $121. 2 touchdowns. Man among boys, as he always is, right? He is just a strong human being, very fast human being, and he can bully people. And you just see him in traffic. When the ball is just up to him in traffic, that is the man. So A.J. Brown getting it done. 28 PPR points, again, on 6 targets. You love it. Dallas Goedert had to have a down game at some point. Only 3 targets, caught them all for 18 yards. He had been on a bender with touchdowns. I believe 4 straight games coming in, Goddard had scored. But it was going to happen. Goddard's going to be fine. He's going to have his sporadic targets, but he's that borderline tight end one when you get upside if he gets things rolling there. So great there. But I still am worried. Still worried about Philadelphia. Here's my dream world. No offense to anybody here, okay? My dream world is this. Cleveland throttles Miami. all right, tomorrow morning, maybe tonight, maybe it happened already. I doubt it. Call the press conference. Mike McDaniel, we love your service. Not working out here. Cut you loose. And then Howie Roseman gets on the phone. Mike McDaniel, we got a job for you. We need you to be our offensive coordinator. That would be fun. And look, it's a fantasy, right? Go into this, say, what do we do? Well, guess what? Got a few weeks of practice by the playoffs, and I can't imagine the fun that Mike McDaniel would have with this cast of characters. I know this team would be scoring 28 to 32 points a game. It won't happen, but let a man dream a bit. Minnesota side of the ball. So Minnesota they weren't never far behind, but they were chasing. They were chasing in this one. Jordan Mason scrapping along, 15 carries, 57. He got in the end zone. Real nice stretching the ball to get in the end zone. Excellent, excellent move there. A very nice play by Jordan Mason that made his fantasy day because he's not active in the passing game. It was funny when Xavier Scott got a goal line carry. This is what 20, 30 years ago. I go, it looks like Toby Gerhart out there, number 44. I don't know if anybody remembers him, but I just had a little like Xavier Scott, Toby Gerhart, a nice little flashback. I enjoyed that. But Mason is fine. Mason got you a baseline fantasy game. We say touchdown dependent, and it's exactly what happened, right? And so that's it. The receiving game. Well, we always talk about Philly, right? And when you play Philly, Quinyon Mitchell's out there. And I know he doesn't always, every play is not always on Jefferson or the top receiver, but going in, you're going to pick on the other cornerbacks. That is what you do against Philly. And Jordan Addison leads him with 12 targets, 9 for $128. He has played great. I think every game since he's come back from the suspension. Yeah, it's been the 3 straight games. Good numbers. Don't care about the flukish touchdown against or there's a touchdown or a long play against Pittsburgh and effort. Don't care. He's getting it done every week. Jordan Addison right now, you got to put him in the top 30 receivers. 3 straight games getting it done. Will there be weeks he doesn't? Yes, but that's the nature of the wide receiver 3 bucket, right? Jefferson floor game, 5 for 79. Are you happy with it? No. Are you upset? At 5 for 79, you'll take it. 10 targets, that was great. Hockenson could have had a better game. 6 for 43, had a touchdown, couldn't survive the ground. Great opportunity. That would have been a big fantasy game for him. Carson Wentz, I hope he didn't start him. I mean, no touchdowns, 2 picks. He does run for 28. He throws for 313. So he got you something if you played. So there's that. So, but that said, Carson Wentz was, it was a game he had to chase, and you like the Minnesota players in that scenario. So it did work out well for them. So overall, 28-22. Eagles moved to 5-2. Vikings moved to 3-3. 1-2 at home. Elevate your game with the ultimate sports contest, Mega Sports Progressive. Dive into a world of excitement with 3 progressive jackpots and a chance to win big every week and every month. We're rewarding 1,500 lucky winners, distributing over $50,000 in monthly prizes. All you do is answer 15 daily sports props. Add up your correct response for the week's cash prizes. Tally the week's total for huge monthly cash rewards. Mega Sports Pro also makes it fun and easy to join. It's a thrilling opportunity to be part of our growing community of sports enthusiasts. You sign up today and unlock a chance to win very big every day, every week, and every month. Sign-up's free, no commitments, no credit cards. Your first 9 days of play are free. You visit megasportspro.com today. And with that, we have instant reaction number 2. As if we didn't know this, the Colts are for real. 38-24 over the Chargers. They were playing in LA, but we all know they don't have a home field advantage. It's very unfortunate. Wish they did, but that's not the reality. They don't have a home field advantage. And that's tough because, they're a good team. They're a good team, but the Colts offense, just a thing of beauty. And, we said this last year. The Chargers are a well-coached defense. They have some good players. But when they play an offense that's clicking, they have no chance. They don't. Derwin James is great, and they got Khalil Mack, but they just don't have the players to shut down a team that's rolling offensively. And they got steamrolled by the Colts in this one. They had no answers for anybody. No Josh Downs, depth receiver Ashton Doolin was out in this one. They just took the pieces they had, which those, Downs have been doing okay lately. But this game was all about just getting their top players going. Jonathan Taylor, he didn't hit 100 yards. Too bad, too sad. 94. 3 rushing touchdowns. Chips in 3 for 38 through the air. with Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Taylor, if we're drafting today, they're probably 1-2. Am I missing somebody in there? But if not, who's arguing, right? Jonathan Taylor has just looked like that mega stud he was a few years ago. It's wonderful to see him doing well. He ended last season doing well. And that's been the question. How did we miss that one? Maybe you didn't. I did. I was worried about the injuries. I was worried about Daniel Jones. I was worried they were turning over 2 interior offensive linemen. Those are the reasons why I have Taylor in one important league, but I don't have nearly enough shares. I definitely didn't target him, and that's my mistake. I missed that one. But Taylor looks phenomenal, and I hope he stays well and he stays healthy. Alec Pierce leads the receiving charge, 5 for 98 on 10 targets. He has been a thing. If you're using him as a flex, most weeks he's getting you yardage. They use him creatively. It's not just the downfield shots we used to see. They use him on some angled routes. They'll use him on some horizontals, but they can use him in a lot of different ways. And Alec Pierce has been clearly weaponized here, and it's very nice to see. Shane Steichen, I said this before, years ago we called him a genius. And then he wasn't a genius so much. And guess who's a genius again? Shane Steichen, because he's doing this with Daniel Jones. Credit to Daniel Jones. He is playing point guard in a wonderful offense. Pittman and Tyler Warren, 69 yards for Warren, 58 for Pittman. They both score touchdowns. Nobody's upset. Pittman, we recommended him as a solid wide receiver play. Got you 18-8 PPR. Warren got you 16-9. You're not arguing with that. A tight end getting you 16-9. It's a very strong day. But you don't need me to tell you. You keep playing your Colts. When Josh Downs is back, he's the only one we don't know what we're getting week to week. But other than that, play your Colts. And Alec Pierce, like I said, if you're if you're on the fence about him and you have somebody who's not maybe a great flex option, consider throwing Alec Pierce in there. He is a good football player. It's been great, this coaching regime with Shane Steichen. He really make the best use of him. If you were a Los Angeles Charger investor, you were so happy that they fell behind on the scoreboard because they were down big early in this one. And that led Justin Herbert to throw 55 pass attempts. Wow, 55 attempts. Everybody eats if you're a pass catcher. If you're not a running back. 420 yards, 3 picks, 2 interceptions, makes his own fortune. Herbert, of course, throws in 31 rushing yards as well. Justin Herbert had an amazing fantasy performance. Arondé Gasson, I think he had like 68 or 69 yards last week. That said, we know in the preseason we liked him, but his path seemed blocked, right? We didn't know how much he would get. Well, this was the game. 7 for $164 and a touchdown. He was a beast in the middle of the field. And this is a team that has Keenan Allen drawing 14 targets, McConkey drawing 15, Gadsden drawing 9. And I'll get to these other players. Quentin Johnson, again, kind of the odd man out, only 6 targets, 2 for 30 and a touchdown. Quentin Johnston came back last week. Remember, he missed a little bit of time, but he intersected with Gadsden in a weird way. It's when they were down to a 3rd-string right tackle, Joe Alt out again. Now, Alt will be back likely next week. He started practicing, so he'll be back next week. But the intersection of them being so far down at tackle, I said last week, before that game, I go, well, they're going to throw everything underneath because they don't have time for the downfield shots. And that was going to be a hit on Quentin Johnston. Gadsden was the 3rd man in that underneath role, and for 2 weeks he's eaten. Now we have to be concerned when Alt comes back because McConkey and Allen are going to get their targets, and now we just have to worry about what Gadsden's role is going to be. But right now, look, I know he's on a lot of waiver wires. If you're in a deep competitive league, he's not. All right, but he's on a waiver wire. Grab him. He's super talented. Dad was an NFL receiver with the Miami Dolphins back in the day, but he's a very talented tight end. We loved him. I loved him he was like a supersized receiver who plays tight end and very dynamic weapon in the middle of the field. And I think I don't think they could fully let the genie out of the bottle. I think with the way the Chargers have to pass, I think he's got to get 6 targets most weeks or more. Or more, right? So I think we're good there. But now it's a 4-man passing game. Quentin Johnston, unless they start throwing downfield more again, and they may, as Alt gets healthy, they may. So right now we move Johnston down to that wide receiver 3-ish range, but we know there's upside. We know there could be spike weeks. So we're still excited about him. Keenan Allen, again, the targets flow the last 3 weeks were a little down, but again, the volume is there every single week. And McConkey, 9 for 67. You're not going to get upset with that. Last week was a touchdown, but 2 games in a row, that's looking more like the player you invested in. The running game, I mentioned, I go, I know a lot of people like Vidal, and he has some merits. There's a reason why they weren't excited about him. They were talking about trading for running backs. 9 for 20 on the ground, chips in 4 catches for 15. So if you're in a PPR league and you end up getting 35 yards and 4 catches, to get 7 out of a replacement level running back, that's not bad. You wanted more. Haskins, certainly very few probably played him because of last week, and that worked the same. 2 catches, 2 yards, 1 catch, 3 yards. But that backfield is going to just, again, if you need somebody because of buys, you need somebody because of injuries, you can play Vidal. Don't be surprised if the Chargers pursue a running back in the trade market. Uncle Ted mentions Rico Dowdle. You never know. He's on a 1-year, maybe $3.5 million deal, so it's certainly not a lot. But here's the problem. The Panthers know they can't trust their quarterback who sprained his ankle today. Bryce Young sprained his ankle. They know they can't trust their quarterback, and then they ought to run. And having 2 running backs behind that offensive line, that's cooking with gas for them. They kind of like that idea. So I don't know if they'll be so quick to trade him away. But anyway, big game, Colts 38, Chargers 24. It's football season. The best place to catch the games at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Featuring the best pool in the industry, Stadium Swim. Stadium Swim has 3 levels, 6 pools, and a 143-foot diagonal screen. Whether it's Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, Stadium Swim is America's favorite place to watch football. No matter the size of your group, Stadium Swim is the place for you. From owner suites to cabanas, day beds to stadium booths, there are seating choices for everyone. And the best part, Stadium Swim is open 365 days a year with temperature-controlled pools. Is a great place to catch the games all season long. Stadium Swim, located at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Book today at circalasvegas.com. All right, we move. Instant reaction number 3. Wild finish in Denver. They played the Giants. The Broncos score 33 points in the fourth quarter. They win 33-32 over the New York Giants. Those who had them in Survivor had to think that they were finished. It's going to be impossible for me to completely remember how all the scoring went, but I do know this. It was 19-0 Giants at the end of the third quarter, and then it got wild. So I could actually find it here. So then Denver in the fourth quarter, they go on an 8-play, 78-yard drive, and they end up getting a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So it's 19-8. Pass to Troy Franklin worked out well for them. But what do you know? The Giants took 6 plays. They come right back down the field, and they go 67 yards, and now it looks like the game's over. This was the weirdest. Well, not the weirdest. It was a very weird touchdown. It was, I believe it was a 3rd and long. It was a pass to Wan'Dale Robinson. The ball glanced off his hands. Well, it glanced up. Now, this could have been a pick 6, but instead, it goes into Theo Johnson's hands, who runs it in 41 yards for a touchdown. Completely crazy, wild play. But that touchdown, that looked like the game was over. So at that point, it's now, you get the score. Trying to find the score 26-8. So it's 26-8 Giants. And there's only, I'm trying to think how much time is left in this game. Tell you exactly. There's 10 minutes left in the game. So it's not looking good. Well, Denver gets the ball and they go 13 plays, 74 yards, and they do get a pass interference penalty that helped them out with 6:38 left. They end up getting a Bo Nix touchdown run, 2-point conversion. So now they're down 26-16. So they're still down 10 points. A lot of time left. Jackson Dart gets the ball. Didn't see a linebacker. Linebacker was a slight little drop. It was a nice catch. On the 3rd play of the drive, picks him off. And then at that point, now remember, Denver's still down 10. 4 plays, less than a minute. So Denver, first they go incomplete on a deep shot to Harvey. They throw to Troy Franklin for 5 yards. They get a defensive offsides. And then finally, 2 plays later, they get the ball out. It's deep in the red zone because they have interception. Pass to Harvey, 2-yard touchdown, extra point. And now all of a sudden, this game is 26-23. So now we're thinking, oh, great. Giants have the ball. Try to put it away, right? They 3 and out. Denver comes down the field, 6 plays, 68 yards. Bo Nix runs in another touchdown, and now it looks like Denver wins the game. It looks like they're all set. They're up 30-26, right? Nope, not exactly. The Giants put together a 1:14 drive. Again, more wildness down the field. They go up, but they left about 40 seconds on the clock. And Denver drives down for a game-winning field goal. And that was a lot of play-by-play. Sorry about that. But just to see how crazy that was, the back and forth on how that was, it was crazy fun viewing that hopefully you did get to see that one. All right, so as we break into the numbers on this game, the people that you know, Jackson Dart, 15-33, less than 50% passing, but Denver made some real tactical errors. They left Daniel Bellinger wide open for a 44-yard touchdown. The Theo Johnson one was that weird play I told you about where it fell off or bounced off of Wandale's hands. It was a crazy game. Aside from the 2 tight end weird plays, that's how Bellinger got his 88 yards and half of them, and how Theo Johnson got most of his 66. But it was Wandale Robinson. And Wandale Robinson, in my mind, was the most impressive player. I thought playing against those 3 corners from Denver, I thought that he was in trouble. 6 for 95 on 12 targets. I will tell you this. If the Giants do not pick up a wide receiver, Wandale Robinson is so by far their number 1 receiver, and they play him in the slot and they play him outside, and he's quick twitch and he can get open very quickly and he's slippery. And defenses, I don't think they're going to bracket him. I don't think anybody's going to respect him enough to bracket him. So Wandale Robinson in a PPR league with a 20-point game last week, a 15-5 this week, he is in top 20 wide receiver range in PPR because it's going to be, unless they get somebody else, there is like nobody else they can go to. Scatterboo gets a receiving touchdown, 94 yards. This cat has at least 90 yards. I think in like all week 1 he wasn't the starter. I think there's only 1 game he doesn't have 90 yards. Beautiful. Jackson Dart, as we predicted, didn't run 11 yards. Knew he wouldn't run against this fast defense. But again, those crazy touchdowns, he ran one in. For fantasy, Jackson Dart continues to put up quarterback 1 pace, even without the rushing yards. Denver side, look, Bo Nix is great for fantasy. If you started him, you were super happy. He got 2 passing touchdowns. He got 2 rushing touchdowns, 48 rushing yards. But if you watch the game, it's a good thing they had to score 33 points in the 4th quarter because Bo Nix was terrible for 3 quarters. Completes 27 of 50. He was well below 50% going into that 4th quarter. It was like a game that got out of control. And that said, Bo Nix has some really good games and he has some really bad games. Dangerous player to start in fantasy, but if you started him here, you were happy. Dobbins, 81 yards, high floor play almost every week. Sutton, 87 yards, 6 for 87. Good game for him. But outside of that, Troy Franklin did score a touchdown, but you see only 10 targets, 3 for 19. A weird game for him. But his overall numbers have been trending a little bit down. He's still on that flex radar, I guess, but I got to check the snaps. The snaps have been going down incrementally for him, so be careful with that. All right, we are going to go over a couple more reactions after we take a short break. All right, next we have instant reaction number 4, and that reaction is Josh Jacobs fights through a calf injury. Packers win at Arizona 23-20. Josh Jacobs didn't do a lot for the first 3 quarters. He did score you a touchdown, so you were happy with that, but he did not have a lot of carries. I want to say going into the 4th, real close on this. It was like he had like 6 carries and Emmanuel Wilson had like 5. So it was a split thing. So Jacobs clearly was fighting through something. But when the game was on the line and it was close late and the Packers needed to ice it out, they lean on Josh Jacobs. So 13 carries, 55 yards, and he punched in the game-winning touchdown. So a lot of us were and I'm heavily invested in Josh Jacobs. And when the inactive dropped, a lot of these deep competitive leagues with like no waiver wire players that are worth having, backup running backs are rostered everywhere. It was like because it was a late game. and a lot of my pivots were early. So, like many of you out there, if you were able to get the good news that Jacobs was going, you were extremely ecstatic, and you were more ecstatic. He caught one pass for 3 yards also, so he ends up with about 18, 19 PPR points, and you could not have been happier for getting that out of that. The passing game, Jordan Love didn't have a great game. 19 to 29, 179, threw a touchdown. Did run for 22 yards, but again, you see it. Jordan Love, just week to week, he's really tough because he doesn't have consistently good games. Now, he did get good games out of Romeo Dobbs, 6 for 72. I think Dobbs in a PPR is getting to that point where he's like top 36, top 40. He had a 3 touchdown game against Dallas, but the floor has been good. The floor has been good for him. Is that outside, receiver that they kind of lean on. So he's getting a little more stable role. So I'm definitely more comfortable on Romeo Dobbs than I've been. It's been impressive. He's a good football player. Tucker Kraft finally shakes the 4 target thing. He had one game earlier this year at 7. He gets 10 targets, 5 for 58 and a touchdown. I had talked about this being a potentially good spot for him. Arizona, you can get the tight end schemed up for some space, and Tucker Kraft definitely got going. He got that the touchdown too. It was a deep red zone one, and there was a play that looked like they were going to go to Josh Jacobs, and then the defense went Jacobs, and then Jordan Love pulled it and threw to Kraft. Good for Tucker Kraft. He scored. Matthew Golden, 37 yards on 4 catches. His yardage have been going up each week, but I don't think he had a 60 receiving yard game yet. He's just that player that he's really hard to start in fantasy unless you're in a deeper league. It may come together at some point, but right now it's not that way. Arizona side, so Jacoby Brissett, the man's a good football player. I did not like this matchup because Brissett's often a statue in the pocket, and the pressure was coming. He got sacked 6 times. Jacoby Brissett, let's get the ball to Trey McBride. That was his game plan. 6 targets to Harrison, 2 for 58. Harrison did very little. 2 targets to Zay Jones, 4 to Michael Wilson, 13 to McBride. McBride catches 10 of those 13, 74, 2 touchdowns. So those who invested in McBride, the 2 weeks with Brissett have been a godsend for you because McBride has been exactly that player the last 2 weeks. Now, Kyler Murray's probably coming back before long. I think they have a bye coming up. I think it's next week, top of my head. And if it is, it sounds like he's coming back, and everybody's like, oh, we like it, Kyler Murray, but we want Jacoby Brissett in there because we want Trey McBride to go off. Harrison didn't, neither here nor there with that one. The rushing game for Arizona will be real simple. If they're playing with a lead, which they did for much of this game, it's a Bam night game. 14 for 57. He also had 3 catches for 7. So 64 scrimmage yards, 3 catches. Didn't hit 10 PPR, but real close. You'll take it. Michael Carter, because they didn't trail, wasn't much in the passing role. He caught 2 for 25, 7 rushes for 11. So, but anyway, he had close to 6 PPR points. So it wasn't like a terrible amount off of what Knight did. But the whole point is this: the backfield isn't, unless like they're trailing and Carter gets catches, it's going to be just a floor play to fill in for bye weeks and injuries, which is fine. That's what you probably signed up for. Dearness Johnson was active in this game. That just tells you the state of that backfield. But again, Trey McBride gets it done, and we're all excited about that. But Green Bay, 3-1-1, Cardinals 2-4. Interesting game. It was fun enough to watch, but I just think Jordan Love. It was frustrating that Jacoby Brissett, from his perspective, played a better game. 279, 2 touchdowns, despite the 6 sacks. Jordan Love's got some things to figure out, and I hope he does. Talented player, but just doesn't have the consistency that we would like out of him. Cashing on your NFL picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less than your favorite player. Went up to 5,000 times your money. For a limited time only, new players get $20 free with no deposit required. Yeah, you heard that right. $20 free just on sign up. See why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using a cash out feature to take your money and run, or hammering the daily promos, today is your chance to win up to $40,000 in a single entry. Stop sitting on the sidelines. Get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports, available now in 30 plus states. Download Chalkboard today and use the promo code ROTONFL. That's ROTO NFL to get $20 free with no deposit required. All right, let's get you out for this kickoff game. We got instant reaction number 5. Flacco revives the Bengals. The Bengals beat the Steelers Thursday night football, of course, 33-31. But I haven't really talked to you much on this platform over the weekend, so this is one I wanted to talk about. When the Bengals acquired Flacco. I do my Wednesday morning preview show, and this wasn't this game. It was the first game he played, and I said really simple. I go, this is a great spot for Flacco, and it's a great spot for not just the Steelers game, but any game, and it's a great spot for Higgins because the Bengals already had a blueprint for an offense that was based out of shotgun. And that shotgun-based offense is important because they can't protect. But now you have two receivers that defenses don't have the talent to handle both. And so basically it's shotgun, quick read, get it to Chase, get it to Higgins, keep moving. So Flacco takes only 2 sacks against the vaunted Steelers pass rush. And Flacco 2 weeks in a row, he has both of these receivers playing at an excellent level. I want to say Higgins had 62 yards in that first game, 6 for 96 and a touchdown against the Steelers. Chase went off both games. So this is going to be fun. Joe Flacco is going to be fine here. You watch that Thursday night game. You see how pretty the football he throws is. And he's not throwing to bad players now. He's throwing to two. I mean, Chase is a legend, and he's throwing to a great receiver in Higgins. And 23 targets to Chase, 10 to Higgins. So 33 of his 45 targets. That's exactly what he needs to do. And then those who invested in Chase Brown, here's what we said also. I said this would have a ripple effect on Brown. Now, Brown's not getting enough work, but 11 carries for a bucket because like the Burrow days with Flacco, it wasn't like Browning where everybody packed in because he's got to just get out quick, but he doesn't have an arm. Flacco will get it out quick, but get the ball in a place to give his receivers a chance to win. So that room opened back up. Now, the Steelers are a bad run defense. I will say that. But Chase Brown, 11 for a $1.08. He's kind of back on the map as a low-end running back, too. There's downside every week, but a touchdown or two will come. The Steelers side. So they end up getting in this wild game where they're chasing. And look, I don't know how DK Metcalf gets 5 targets. Darnell Washington gets the same 5. Freiermuth gets 6. Jonnu Smith gets 6. So all the tight ends had at least as many, if not more, targets than DK Metcalf. And maybe at the end of the day, maybe that cost the Steelers. I could get their game planning because we know the Bengals are horrible against tight ends, and they had 3 of them. But the Bengals are also terrible against number 1 receivers, and Cam Taylor-Britt was out, and Trey Hendrickson was out. So I just thought it was really, really bad. I just thought that this should have been a heavily featured DK Metcalf game. Freiermuth gets a 68-yard touchdown late in the game. Broken play, great. Jonnu Smith gets a touchdown, 28 yards. Darnell Washington, here's the stat line. 3 receptions, 2 yards, 1 touchdown. It's almost a Jerome Bettis back in the day. My whole point, though, with this reaction is Cincinnati is live with Flacco because they are just going to rip it to those receivers, and that is good for football. All right, everybody. Thanks to our sponsor, Chalkboard, where you simply choose more or less in your favorite player stats, win up to 5,000 times your money. Thanks to everyone for listening. Come back next week for another edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast.